Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Backstory for context. I had just left the hospital about a week or so ago due to really bad pain behind my knee. So bad that I couldn't sit, stand fully upright, walk, lay down or bend or fully straighten my leg. It came out of nowhere and got progressively worse every day that I ended up bedridden for 2 weeks. Also to note, even though the summer heat is coming to an end where I live, I drank plenty of cold water to the point where I'd have to get up every hour to use a bathroom throughout the day. The pain was so sad that I would lose the urge and would just lay in bed all day, not even wanting to get up to eat or pee, because it was so bad and sensitive to the touch that any movement would make me wince. Doctors were baffled, so there was a CT scan and an MRI done, as well as bringing in an oncologist because I had a large mass of fat behind my leg, a tumor about the size of a football. Hearing oncologist almost brought me to tears as I feared for the worst. It turns out what I thought was a really bad cramp was actually torn tendons and ligaments in my leg. I hadn't fallen or hit my leg against anything, which confused everyone. And the large mass was just a fatty tumor, nothing too serious according to the doctors and surgeon. No operation was done, it's not cancerous, and I was told in a few weeks the swelling would go down and my leg should heal naturally. I've been using a walker since discharge, and just recently the pain is much more tolerable that I no longer need it, but I still use a walking cane because there is still a chance I could fall and I won't risk it for a biscuit. Now that that's out of the way, on to the story. I've been given hydrocodone upon discharge for the pain, but only for 3 days, as it's pretty strong and one could possibly get addicted. So I've been taking Tylenol after my meds ran out, as it's the strongest over-the-counter medicine I could get. I have to keep my leg either very still while laying down or constantly moving it, i.e. walking, as it hurts if I stand still for too long. This incident happened 2 days ago. Instead of sitting at home, doing leg exercises in bed, and waiting for my dad to go bring me pain meds, I decided to go with him to keep myself moving, hoping it would help me, plus spend more quality time with him. We've had an on and off bumpy relationship. So we headed to the pharmacy, and once we're there, I decided I also wanted some jacket snacks. I informed my dad about this, and so he doesn't have to slowly follow me around. I suggest he go out to get some quick groceries at the supermarket across the street. He agrees, and we go our separate ways for a while. I go around with a basket and pick my stuff up along with pain meds, taking my time, then head to the counter up front. This is where the entitled dad and his son come into play. The son was quiet the entire time and didn't say a word. As I'm standing in line, I put my basket down next to me and hold on to my cane. As mentioned before, it hurts to standing still for too long, and my hands start to wobble a bit as I'm struggling. The entitled dad is behind me in line and makes a snide remark about me struggling to stand, saying how I should quit being a drama queen. You can wait. I turn to him and glare for a few seconds before replying, I have a bad leg. I can't stand for too long, in a deep, irritated tone before turning away. As I do, this man has the absolute nerve to walk over and picks up my basket and starts rummaging through my items. I turn and demand loudly, put down my basket now. To ensure I grab other people's attention, he scoffs and hands it to his son, who's about 6 years old and carrying their own basket, and keeps rummaging, picking out and commenting on my snacks, and gets to my pain meds. What are you, some sort of junkie? What's with all the painkillers? You're getting off on these, aren't you? There is only 3 other people in line who are either staring or trying not to get involved. I ignore his question and ask for my basket back. This angers the entitled dad, and he asks again in a much louder voice. You're hooked on these, aren't you? As he throws the stuff back into the basket. I'm almost up to the counter next, but I walk a bit closer as my leg is starting to feel a bit stiff, and ask once again for my basket. The entitled dad shouts, fine. As I hold my hand out to grab it, he, instead of handing it to me, throws it forward towards me. I'm only 5'7", and this man was about 6 foot something. A handsome, tall guy, and threw it at chest height as if tossing a basketball. So basically, he tossed it in my head. I put my hands up not to catch it, but to block it from hitting my face. As soon as it hit me, I was knocked backwards, Stumbling with my leg in pain from the sudden movement as I tried to catch my balance or grab onto something, anything, so I wouldn't hit the floor. If I had fallen against the counter, it would have been much better, as I'd still be standing, but I fell straight on my butt and onto my back. The rope around my wrist from my cane coupled with the momentum made the cane spin back, and I landed on it with my right arm. I can't tell you how much I screamed and cried in agony as I fell and lay there trying to move my body to my right side. I can't even sit normally without pain and have to lean most of my body to the right whenever I sit down on a toilet seat at the dinner table or even sitting upright on my soft mattress. Any weight or pressure on my leg makes it hurt, and it's uncomfortable and gives me back aches. So landing hard straight down was absolutely hell. The other customers as well as the cashier and store manager started shouting at the guy while trying to help me up. I declined, wanting to stay on the floor as it would be much better than if I was sitting or standing, and demanded loudly for the cops to be called and to not let the man go, as I was sure as heck I am going to be pressing charges. The entitled dad doubles down and shouts back at everyone else. I mean, look at him. He's exaggerating. He's not hurt. Look at these pain meds. He walks to my basket and takes out my stuff. He continues, he's probably getting high off of these. No one needs this many Tylenol. He's an addict. He doesn't even need this. He proceeds to kick my cane away, but the strap is still around my wrist. It's all fake. It's an act. As he's finishing his stupid speech, his voice is starting to shake as I'm guessing he's realized he's not gonna win this one. He goes and grabs his son's hand, put his basket down, and tried to speak walk out of the store, muttering something along the lines of, "Come on, son, we don't need this. We'll go to another store." One customer plucks his pass, as well as the manager, who's already on the phone with the dispatcher and saying officers are on their way. Upon hearing this, the entitled dad bolts, dragging his kid along and shoves the customer plucking his pass into the metal detector near the entrance. The entitled dad stumbles as a woman with her child in a stroller starts to walk in. He's dancing left to right trying to get past a woman who's now just standing there confused as to what's happening. The shoved customer gets back on his feet, runs up to the entitled dad, spins him around 180 and tackles him to the floor, keeping him pinned. Fast forward to my dad coming back and asking what the hell happened. I explained as well as the other customers and manager. Police arrive after a while and everyone starts to explain what happened. Statements was given, charges were pressed, and the entitled dad was taken in cuffs to the backseat of a squad car. His son stayed behind and would be picked up by his aunt. The only thing he said was, "I'm sorry," before we left. This didn't happen to me, but I was a person that helped to bring some of the entitlement to an end. A little bit of backstory. My friend lives with her in-laws. Amy, not her real name, moved from her cute little condo with her husband and two girls into a much larger house with her in-laws. This was due to the father-in-law being diagnosed with Parkinson's and the mother-in-law feeling that she couldn't deal with this on her own. At first, Amy was just supposed to be there as backup when needed, but it quickly moved to her being a built-in maid, nurse, and a taxi driver. Both in-laws were retired, so no jobs were being covered, and Amy was, at the time, a stay-at-home mom. When this big new house was built, the in-laws paid the down payment. It was a substantial amount so that the mortgage payments would be low. Due to Amy and her husband having their own condo, they did not qualify to be put on a title to the house. The house was listed under the in-laws' name, but they only wanted to pay rent to Amy and her husband. So Amy and Matt paid all the mortgage payments while the in-laws only paid $400 total a month. This was to cover room and board as well as any and all food and utilities. This put a strain on Amy and Matt, but they did the best they could. Each tax season, the father-in-law would get the mortgage paperwork showing the amount paid each year. He advised his son that since his name was on a mortgage, that he would be taking the tax credit. As the father-in-law had been an accountant, the son believed his father was doing what was right and never said anything about it. One day this came up in a conversation that I had with Amy. I tell her that I don't think it works that way with the IRS, and she says that she didn't think it did either, but there wasn't anything she could do about it because she didn't want to cause any more friction with her in-laws. So I go home and make a call to our local IRS office. 30 minutes on hold later, and the following conversation takes place. I have a question about mortgage payments and taking credit on tax paperwork. Sure, how can I help you? The agent asks me. If my name is on a house title and mortgage but I don't pay the mortgage payment each month, can I take the tax credit on my yearly taxes? Who is making the payments? Are you renting out the house and then sending that payment to the mortgage company? I have a family member who is living in the house with me, and they are paying the mortgage to the lender directly. I pay them rent each month, but do not send any money to the lender directly. My name is on a mortgage and title due to my better credit. Can they show that they are making the payments each month to the lender directly? Yes? No, you cannot take the tax credit as you did not make the payments. If I know someone who's doing this, how do I advise the IRS of this? One moment, please. I was on hold again for about 20 minutes when the following happens. How can I help you? The supervisor continues the call and asks me. I then again say what I know is going on and give the first and last names of my in-laws in question. The last name is not a usual name, so it wasn't hard for them to find them, I'm sure. I was advised that they would look into it and thanked me for my time. I hung up and didn't really think that anything would come out of it. A few months later, my friend Amy tells me that her in-laws are really upset that the IRS wants to audit them, and that they also got a letter from the IRS about an audit. I acted surprised and never let on it was due to my call to the IRS. It wasn't until my friend moved out of her in-laws' house that I finally told her what I did. But last I heard, the mother-in-law is going to court and the amount that they owe my friend and her husband is over 100K. Hey everyone, hope you're doing well and having a good time. I've got some exciting news for you. I've just launched a brand new channel called Crown Corner that I will be narrating stories on it daily myself. Let's just say that if you love hearing about unbelievable entitled people and those unforgettable Karens, you're going to love what's in store on the new channel. So here is what I need from you, my good friends. Head over to the new channel, you'll find a link in the description below, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss out on any of our wild stories. Your support means the world to me and I can't wait to see you there. Let's keep the stories rolling. Thank you so much for being part of this journey with me. And now, let's dive into our stories. This story primarily takes place between me and a crabby neighbor who's a member of my community's HOA. As a bit of background, me and my 3 roommates moved into a housing community that is basically just a bunch of cookie-cutter townhomes. All of these homes have garages that open onto streets that wind through the community. This is important later. With your front door opening to a path on the other side of your house, there are also some free parking spots on the edge of the community where there are no houses. When we first moved in, we quickly found out that parking could be a bit of a pain during the day, especially when people had guests during the weekend. Now, my roommates and I admittedly have more cars than the average family. Because we usually have to commute for work, we each have one. We try to make parking easier by using the garage, but we all have tons of sporting equipments, so we can usually only get one car in the garage. When all the parking and all the free spots is full, we just park our cars right up against the garage and leave them there during the day or overnight. We'd seen other neighbors do it, and it still left ample room for people driving on the street to get by. Well, one day the crappy neighbor comes up while my roommates and I are in the garage organizing some stuff and tells us that we can't park there overnight as it's against community rules. Before we had any chance to respond, he added, "And if you do it again, I will personally make sure you're towed." His first comment was pretty reasonable. We just moved in and didn't know that rule. But his second comment really just made him sound like a jerk. It wasn't necessary. One of my roommates simply responded that we didn't know as we just moved in and we wouldn't park there overnight anymore. Well, the crappy neighbor, clearly trying to assert his dominance, responded with, "Good. You better not, because I will be watching." Well, from then on, we did follow those rules. If we parked in front of our garage during the day, we would make sure to move before we went to sleep. This worked out for a while until one fateful day. One of my roommates stopped by quickly after work to grab some dinner and close before heading to his girlfriend's. This was around 7 p.m, so he just parked up against the garage as it would be quicker than the parking spaces. Plus, it was early enough that he didn't think he'd get towed. Around 8 p.m. he went to head out and his car was gone. Guess who was there though? The crappy neighbor standing right outside. Immediately he said to my roommate, "Told you you were going to get towed if you parked here again." The crappy neighbor and my roommate argued for a bit before my roommate came back inside and called the car lot. Well, it ends up closed, so he'll have to get his car in the morning. The kicker? They are going to charge him an overnight fee. All in all, it comes out to $500, which isn't a small amount of money for us. This neighbor has been a jerk to us since we moved in, and even though it wasn't my car that was towed, I took this personally. To make sure we didn't get towed again, we decided to read the community rules, and lo and behold, we found out that the street in front of the garage is actually considered the fire lane, and no one is supposed to park there at any point during the day. Between the crabby neighbor treating us like crap, and the fact that we could get him yelling at his wife every night, not a big detail to the story, but just wanted to add to my point that this guy just sucked. I started to plan my revenge. Since quarantine started, I've been able to work from home, and my desk conveniently looks out onto the street between the houses. This means that I can clearly see the crappy neighbor's garage. I start to take notice of when he parks his car out in front of his garage. For about 2 weeks, I noticed that he would come home around 1 p.m. and leave again at 2 p.m. In the third week, I decided I would begin the revenge. On Monday, true to his schedule, he stopped by around 1. After about 10 minutes, I gave the tow company a call and said that he was parked in the fire lane and if they could come and remove his car. 20 minutes later, a tow truck rolled up, hooked his car up and towed it off. About 15 minutes later, the crabby neighbor came out and I could hear him start to yell back into his house, presumably at his wife. He then left and didn't come back until later that evening after he got in his car. Now, it was funny to do this and I made sure to send snaps to my roommate who don't work from home, but I wasn't done yet. See, this jerk apparently didn't learn the first time because literally the next day he parks in front of his garage again. What should I do? Well, the exact same thing as the day before, of course. Again, the crabby neighbor comes out, realizes his car is gone, yells at his wife and then goes to get it. Now, after this time, he's a bit smarter and parks in an actual spot before going in to get his lunch or whatever it is he does there midday. He does this for about 2 weeks before he decides that it's okay to park in front of his garage again. Well, who is still sitting at their desk every day and notices this immediately? Well, me of course. And being the concerned resident as I am, I immediately call the tow company and off his car goes again. And again, this is met with yelling. After this third time, I decided I would stop because I genuinely felt bad for his wife who he seemed to do most of the yelling at, as if it was her fault that he was a dummy. What I can tell you is that it definitely cost him over 1K. If he hadn't gotten my roommate's car towed, then we wouldn't have ever found that fun little rule. The best part was that a number of my neighbors would have their cars parked there at the same time and they would never have their cars towed, which made it all the better when his car was.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.